cunts, don't forget to click the subscribe button.
I mean, she's desperate. She's blowing.
Now, see, I know why you didn't bring it up, but I'm going to tell you why a seasoned person like me would have.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's no miscommunication that you know that she lied to you.
Right.
I've even called it a lie.
Yeah.
So much for your fucking other buyer. Now let's get fucking serious. Otherwise, I don't have time to waste with you. I'll say it again slow for you meatheads. Okay? So much for your other buyer. You know, now let's get serious. Because I don't have time to fuck around. You leave the fuck around part out. But because sometimes people, they get so delusional. It's like when your kids tell you a lie on a Monday. And the same shit comes back on Wednesday. They think they were brain dead that we didn't remember from fucking Monday. You got, when you have an advantage of something, that's what wives do their husbands better than anybody. When a wife gets has the knife against your ribs, you know, and she knows that the flesh is just scarring over from the last time, nobody does it to you better than a wife. And they love you. But nobody can, you know, and so you want them to make sure
they know.
That they know. And what part of the world is this?
Orange County and Riverside County. So she's
Orange County, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carlsbad actually is their main office.
Is she Asian?
No.
Okay. Because I got an Asian guy that's taking care of all the Orange counties right now, but which is you.
Home health care. This
we don't care. We say it just for drill. I mean, just for practice, you know. Okay. So now that you told me that, what do you think? What is your august group?
Well, so one thing is, I'm like, it's worth $2 million. That's it, right? And she's like, oh, well, those ad backs that need to be adjusted into the EBITDA. So she sends me it. It's like $275,000 in draws, $78,000 in salary, and there's a few other.
What are the draws? 270 draws. What do you mean by
$275,000 in draws that she's pulling out of the business,
money,
right?
okay.
And she's claiming, well, I need to pay for my dad's medical bills. Yada yada.
That's fine.
Right. Okay.
I'll be with him. You know?
Right. So now so we'd have to get a quality of earnings to obviously prove that, right? But if you still do the math, it's not 3.5.
No, of course it's
not. It's not 3.5. So I think what we've agreed upon is the best thing is to completely just lowball her off the first offer. This is the truth. This is what we think the business is valued at. I haven't determined how much she is willing to put up on her own equity. I haven't determined that number.
Seller note.
Right. Exactly. And then whatever she's unable to come up with, we would just fulfill the rest with commercial debt. And then she's mentioned that she's willing to stay on.
Well, no, okay. So go on the premise you're going to get.
100%.
Like I say, if you don't think you can fuck all night, you're not going to fuck all night, right? Okay. You go on the premise it's 100% seller's note.
Right.
That's your opening volley. Okay. We want a shock and awe offer. Now, sometimes when you do that, they're dead.
Right.
And I realize because you guys are working hard to find these fucking morons, you don't want to let one off the hook. I understand all that. But the shock and awe of a lowball is sobering. It's just like when you go to Asia, they shock you with a highball. We want 9 million bajillion times earnings or whatever they say, you know, when the market is saying 7, 8, 9 times earnings. So, but the shock and awe lowball works. And you never know. But what it'll do, two things it does for sure. Number one, it gets their fucking attention. Now, it might not get their attention in a way you want to get their attention. And number two, you're going to be starting from a much lower price range.
Right.
It's not dissimilar to, buying cars and all these other things, or buying Persian rugs when they tell you, there's 72 million stitches in that. And it took 9 million people, a million years it was done on a machine. Yeah, most of us can't. Okay, well, it's the same methodology. I believe Andrew Carnegie must have had that in his soul somehow, even though he was born in Scotland. Okay, so and how did you find this potential deal?
Cold call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now what are the comments you guys have made about this?
So my thoughts were that lowball at 1.8 million and offer her $1 million up front if she stays on, and then have her do like the Indian guy from the hardcore last year. I don't want to say his name. You know what I'm talking about. Have him give her a percentage of the company because she's greedy, and suck her in and get the first deal done.
You mean percentage of the holding company?
Mm-hmm. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I remember. I remember. Almost any deal is good for your first deal. But another way of looking at it is, if this was your 10th deal, would you do this deal? Any of you?
No.
No. If it was your 5th deal, would you do it?
No.
Nope.
Got a good valuation.
Okay. Okay. Now, we're getting close to the truth here.
Well, using the shock and awe, if it was my 10th deal, in a second, lightning fast, I'd offer nothing, real low, and
Then she bites.
Well, I mean, remember what the Onassis people taught me. You choose the price, Mr. Peña. We'll choose the terms. You could pay the $3 million or whatever she thinks over 10, 15.
Right,
100% seller finance. Finance paid to her over 15 years. Yeah. The first 3 years, only interest. The 4th year on interest and principal. You could make that work. Because then the worst scenario, remember, is you default, they get the business back on a seller's note. You don't want to default, but if the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to get the business back and you're not going to have to come up with the money for a shitty business, that's a better scenario. I see some of the kids keep the business alive 2 or 3 years past. They should have walked away because even though the numbers all stacked up, we had 3 years tax returns, 3 years of their own financials. I mean, it was a dying business, and we just couldn't tell it was a dying business. Most of the sellers know if their business is dying. They may bullshit you about something else, but most people know, whether this is a dead deal. And, 1 out of 10 deals that you do, even with all the preliminary stuff that I show you how to do, is going to be a turkey. It'll be a turkey. And you'll try to smudge them into with your successful ones. Whenever you see a big companies or private equity firms make 3 or 4 or 5 acquisitions in a row, they announce them in a row, it's because at least 1 or 2 of those are turkeys in between, and they just want you to look at the total numbers as opposed to the individual numbers. But it's a low ball to me would be instead of $1 million, a seller, 100% seller finance. And I'll drive you. I'll pick up and drive you to that other buyer you got. Yeah. I used to say that all the time. And then it got, a couple of times I had to. They said, okay. And I took them. And there was a buyer there, but they didn't buy it. That's even worse for the seller. When you take them to the other customer, and then the fucker didn't buy, and then they call you, are you still interested? Yeah. We're in Orange County.
Carlsbad is one office, and then they have a few. It's Riverside and Orange, I think. Riverside and Orange. But Carlsbad's the main office. They have 3 other offices as well. So
okay, now, so you haven't looked at the patient list or, how much comes from Medicare, how Medicaid, insurance, etc.?
I have not gotten into that, no.
California is not easy, but they do have motivated sellers. Okay, so James said what he would do. Any other comments on what you guys would do with him?
I touched on how much commercial financing was even possible, because that might help him when he's negotiating with the seller, saying, I can't finance the number you're looking at. I can only...
Well, that's the reason you go in warm-up banks, and the banks tell you 3 to 5 times EBITDA. And when you tell us, if you follow the scripts and you tell the seller, I'm buying businesses $1 to $5 million in total revenue at 3 to 5. They lock in on 5, hoping they can stretch you to 6 or 7. You lock in on 3, and all your offers are, remember, in the LOI, subject to due diligence and finance.
The issue is we disagree on the EBITDA. That's the problem, right? When we do the math, we're coming up with 2. Okay, around 2. when she's doing the math, she's coming up with some other number. And
Okay, well then just say,
Right.
okay, it's a bridge too far. Walk
right,
away.
right. Okay.
Just say thank you
Because
very
the
much.
ad backs and all that. She's
Yeah, I
doing,
mean, you know.
So when they have all these ad backs, do you bother?
I mean, everybody, because they're living out of their businesses.
right, drawing out $275,000. Do you mess with that ad?
No,
You
I just
go
say,
off the
no,
tax
that's not an ad back.
Right.
That's compensation you took.
Right.
Why should I, really, if you pay, you're double paying them.
Yeah, her salary is only $78,000, and then the draws are $275,000. Yeah, so it's
Now, did they take that draw as a dividend?
I don't know.
Okay, well,
yeah.
They probably took it as a dividend
Okay.
because dividends pay a lower tax than ordinary income. If she's in a high tax bracket, but 78,000 may not be a high tax bracket. She may be in a minimum tax bracket. Yeah, but I mean, unless you can get a bunch of seller finance. But what is cash flow if it was 100% commercial debt? What does cash flow cover as a purchase price?
40% gross margin.
13.2 net.
So if it's 100% commercial debt,
right.
what does the cash flow cover? Let's say how many times cash flow? It's 40%.
Right, gross margins.
Okay, which equates to what? In dollars.
In dollars, well, it was like 477.
4.7, call it 500.
Yeah, 500.
Okay.
Yeah.
4 times would be 2 million. 5 times would be 2.5 million. Follow?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and that's before due diligence, before you knock EBITDA down. So, I mean, even with monopoly money, you're never going to pay, unless it's now that's a commercial debt.
Right.
At a seller's debt, 100%, you'll be willing to pay more. 1, you can get the deal closed right away.
Yeah.
2, you can put in hurdle rates. You could pay her $3 million if it was 100% seller finance.
Yeah. So just longer term earnout then, right?
Yeah, correct.
Right.
I mean, we just had a guy. I couldn't believe it. Did a 15-year earnout.